Okay, so this is just like all the other problems. You need to be on calculating formulas 2B side. That's the one we're doing, 2B. So length times width. You'll come up here and get your length of 8.0 centimeters. Don't forget to write the 0.0. Don't forget to write the centimeters. Times W, 5.0 centimeters. All right, now you have rewritten the formula with the numbers and units in it. That's worth a point. Then you'd take 8.0 times 5.0. Hopefully you know you'd get 40. I don't need a calculator for that one. But you have two measurements in your problem. We're getting ready to round to the correct amount of sig figs. This one has 1 decimal place. This one has 1 decimal place. So the least number of decimal places in the problem is 1. So my answer needs 1. So I have to add 1 to get 1 there. Then I took centimeters times centimeters, and I get centimeters squared. Okay, number 9. I don't know why it starts with number 8, but it does. All right, so number 9, L is 8.0 centimeters. W is 5.0 centimeters. And H is 3.0 centimeters. All right, so 8 times 5 is 40. 40 times 3 is 120. I don't need my calculator for that one either. I have 3 measurements in my problem. I know their measurements because they have a unit on them. So 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place. Since the least number of decimal places in my problem is 1, I need 1 on my answer. I took centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. I got centimeters cubed. Okay, M over V. We're just following along on this, on that side. Oh, that's right.
What about that paper you're talking about this morning, the house thing?
Oh.
I'm doing one.
Stinks. Stinks. Okay, back to M over V. M is 10.4 grams over V. And notice there's 2 V's. One says V1. This is just a regular V. 4.2 milliliters. The formula said to write it like a fraction, so make sure you write it like a fraction. On my calculator, if I take 10.4 divided by 4.2, I get this big long decimal. You can write the decimal and then round it out, but you don't have to. I'm going to round it right off the calculator. I've got 1 decimal place, 1 decimal place in my measurements. So the least number of decimal places is 1, so I'm going to round to 1. So I'm going to look at the first decimal place, which is this 4, and look to the right. The 7 makes the 4 go up. So my actual answer is 2.5. And if you wrote it like a fraction, like the formula said, it gives you the unit, grams over milliliters. M, where's M? M is 10.4 grams. It tells you to multiply it times gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second. So we've rewritten the formula with the numbers and units in it. Get my calculator out. 10.4 times 9.8 is 101.92. I've got 1 decimal place and 1 decimal place in my 2 measurements. So the least number of decimal places is 1, so I'm going to round to this 9. Look to the right. The 2 makes the 9 stay the same, so my final answer is 101.9. Remember, if you have a unit that's not a fraction, you pretend like it's on top. Meters is on top, seconds is on bottom. So you're going to have grams and meters on top, seconds on bottom. Grams and meters on top, seconds on bottom. If any of those 3 were alike, you might be able to cancel them out, but none of them are alike, so you have to keep them all. This one's a long one, but don't let it intimidate you. Just do it piece by piece. The top of the fraction, there's the 4's on the bottom, but the top says pi diameter squared. So on the top of the fraction, you're going to put 3.14 times diameter, which is 3.5 centimeters. Twice. on the bottom of the fraction is 4, or 4.0 it says. And then out to the side is h. That's something we forget a lot. Don't forget the h. You'd multiply the whole thing by h, 3.0 centimeters. Now, the pi thing was a exponent. And you technically, according to PEMDAS or order of operations, should do that first. But since everything in the problem is multiply and divide, it's really not going to make that any difference according to the, the commutative property. So I'm going to take, I just go across the top of my fraction, 3.14 times 3.5 times 3.5 divided by 4 times 3. And I get the wrong answer. Hang on. That's not the right answer. I've already done it 3 times today, so I know. 3.14 times 3.5. Did I just hit plus? No, I didn't. 3.5. That's the right answer. All right. So pi is not a measurement, so it doesn't count. 4 is not a measurement because it doesn't count. We know that because they don't have units on them. Pi is a ratio and 4 is just a number. So I have 3 measurements and they all have 1 decimal place. So my answer is going to have 1 decimal place. So I'm going to move, if you can see that, there. Looking here, my 1 decimal place is the 8. The 4 makes the 8 stay the same. So my final answer is 28.8. I took centimeters times centimeters times centimeters, so I get centimeters cubed. And I know you have to write the squares out twice. You guys know that. And the reason being, one of the reasons, is you might forget you have 2 of them when you find your unit. A lot of people just write it once and put some rogue 2 up here, and then they forget to to cube their unit. Or they forget to take the 3.5 twice altogether. So that's not going to work. You got to write the 3.5 out twice. Okay, let me move this up. Make sure everybody can still see it. All right, GT. G is 9.8 meters per second. T is 25.5 seconds. Again, I'm just getting these numbers off the top of my paper. Get my calculator out. Come on. 9.8 times 25.5. I get 249.9. Both my measurements have 1 decimal place, so the least number of decimal places is 1. So what's on my calculator is fine the way it is, 249.9. Need 1 decimal place, that's what I got. I got meters per second, and remember, if a unit is not a fraction, we pretend like it's on top. So I do have 2 that are alike. If they are totally opposite, this one being on top, this one being on bottom, you can cancel them out. So seconds are gone, and you're left with meters. Again, that's the altitude formula, so you'd want to end up with a distance unit. Okay, MV1. M is 10.4 grams times V1, and that's this one up here. I know you can't see it, but the video can. 3.0 meters per second. So 10.4 times 3.0, I get 31.2. I have 2 measurements in my problem. Both of them have 1 decimal place. So my answer needs 1 decimal place. So what's on my calculator is good the way it is, 31.2. Grams on top. Remember, if it's a fraction, if it's not a fraction, we pretend like it's on top. So grams on top, meters on top, seconds on bottom. None of them are alike, so I can't possibly cancel them out. So I get grams on top, meters on top, seconds on bottom. Okay, so real quick on the other side, you're going to do this on your own, but note please that R has 2 decimal places. So just I want to point that out. And then in the word problem down at the bottom, I don't want that to flip you out. It gives you the formula right here, pi r squared h. follow it. Here's R, here's H, but notice H doesn't have any decimal places. The other thing that I think a lot of kids have questions on is number 11 says 2 pi r. 2 is literally the 2. 2 times 3.14 times whatever radius is. Okay? Other than that, you can get started on the other side.